Hello all, and welcome back to Midnite Movie Reviews, the end of the year 2020.
Hell of a year
Yeah.
for a lot of people, needless to say.
Really don't even know if I want to even begin to reflect on this year quite as much.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad for me in different ways, but in some way or another, it's been a rough year for everybody. Tough year for movies.
Yeah, a very odd year for movies.
Yeah.
So, at the beginning of this show, our plan was, along with watching some classics and some movies we had never seen before that had been out for a while, we had planned to watch some new movies in theaters and review them as well. Mm-hmm. We saw all of 2 new movies this year.
Yeah, and one of them almost in theaters. We didn't quite make it. If you remember our Bill and Ted review, we watched that right here at my house before we reviewed it. But there was a plan to go to the movies to see it. There was a nearby theater, somewhat close to here, close enough, that was playing it.
When we say close enough, it was still over an hour away.
Yeah, which around here that's close enough. Yeah. We live in the middle of nowhere, but that was the plan, and they didn't keep it for very long, and we just couldn't make it. But we did watch it.
Yeah, and of the 2 movies we did see in theaters this year, I'd say that was the better one.
By far.
The other movie we watched was before the shutdown, and that was Invisible Man.
Yeah, right before the shutdown. I think we seen it within weeks of the shutdown, right before.
Yeah, we all saw that as a band. We all went to the theater to see that, and I'm not saying it was a bad movie. It was very well done. Cinematography amazing. I was just let down because we touched on all this in our Universal Horror episode a couple months ago. But I had heard a lot of great reviews from very trusted film sources, reviewers on YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of ones I really trust, and they all talked it up. I got very excited, got to the theaters, and
it was just kind of alright.
Yeah, it was nothing special to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I appreciated what they tried to do with it and to update the story a little bit and make it new. I don't know, just didn't quite do much for me. I mean, there was some stuff about it I liked. There were some decent scares. Like there were some, there were moments where it was okay, and you thought, oh well, that's kind of cool. That's pretty inventive what they did there. But overall, I don't know. It's not anything that I'm gonna remember. I would like to go back and watch it again. I mean, I'll admit I didn't really pay I felt like there were some things maybe that I missed. It was just a weird night for me. I want to go back and rewatch it again at some point, but from what I remember, it was kind of all right.
Yeah, it was. I think all the rest of the band actually really, really liked it, but I guess I got my hopes up too high.
Yeah.
And just kind of let down.
I think there's some people that, maybe aren't familiar with the Invisible Man mythology, aren't familiar with the older movies that could go in and enjoy something like that.
And it is a shame.
Got a lot to live up to in our eyes.
Exactly. It's a shame the fact that now I'm not one who's to say the remakes are automatically going to suck. The originals always better.
No, me neither. Remakes are fine, people. I don't think this argument really happens as much now as it used to back when Hollywood was spitting them out left and right. Yeah. But remakes are fine.
There are some remakes that I think are far better than the original films. I can name off quite a few of them.
I've seen some. Couple remakes within the past couple years that I don't know that I would say they're better than the original, but I liked them. Some that I like the remake of Pet Sematary, and a lot of people.
See, and I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But there's just unfortunately when you do make a remake, there is always that comparing factor. Okay, well, how are we gonna? We have to compare it to the original, to the source material. It shouldn't have to be that way.
Yeah, I think if you kind of let yourself slip too much into that mode of thinking, you're just cutting yourself off from being able to enjoy something. Yeah. I mean, and at the end of the day, when a remake comes out, that original movie is always there. You can still go back and rewatch it anytime you want to. And a lot of times, whenever there's a new remake that's released, a lot of times, like the original movie will get some cool Blu-ray release or something like that. Or,
Unless it's Star Wars.
oh, well, good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Fair
Yeah, we'll
point.
never see those originals again.
Yeah, that went over my head for a second. Well, not all of you will get to see them again. We've seen them.
Oh yeah, I've still got them.
Yeah. Dig around on Amazon. There's got to be some out there.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's what we're here tonight to do. We've not watched anything. We're not really reviewing anything, except for the year in movies. We're just going to touch on the movies we've already reviewed. Kind of do our favorite picks of those, our favorite view, our worst one, and a few other movies that we did not actually review on the channel. Starting out with those, I guess really one of the first movies I watched this year was a movie that you recommended and we watched together, the Coen Brothers film, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yeah, great movie. It's on Netflix. It's actually a Netflix original, so I think you can only find it on there. So if you get a chance to watch that, if you're a fan of the Coen Brothers filmmaking style, you're going to like it. If you like Westerns, it's not completely a Western itself, really, but it's definitely like, it pays plenty of homage to like a lot of stuff that you're used to with Westerns and some of the stuff you've seen. It's a really good movie. It's actually the first, if I could be wrong about this, somebody might want to fact check me, but I think that was the first film that the Coen Brothers actually made digitally. I think they
could be.
I think they filmed entirely on film up until that. That was their first digital.
It could very well
first
be.
time they filmed something on digital.
Yeah, so that is actually one of my favorite picks of the year.
Mine for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, you had already seen it before this year, but it was the first time I had seen it, and the movie's already a few years old, so it was nothing new when I saw it.
Yeah, I think it may have been a 2018 release.
Somewhere
maybe
in there.
2019. Might have been 2019.
But Ballad of Buster Scruggs, though, was an absolutely phenomenal film, and it's one we could definitely go back to on the channel here. We could give it a full in-depth review one day, because it is an anthology film. There are, I believe, 5 or 6 stories.
Something like that.
And each one is, completely different in its own world, and, there's different things to take away from each little story. I already remember what my favorite is now, but going back watching a second or third time, I might find another.
Yeah, and they are all different too. I mean, they're all set. They all have a Western setting, but you have some that are just kind of funny with some of that typical Coen Brothers type of humor. But then there's some really dark ones too. There's one in particular that's very, very dark.
The Liam Neeson one.
Yes, that one. Yeah, that one's pretty dark.
Yeah, and another film that we watched that was intended to be a review, but we really didn't have much to talk about it.
Oddly enough, I mean, The Wolf of Wall Street, I love this movie. I can't say enough good things about it. It's right up there with my favorite of anything Scorsese's ever done. We watched the movie, we loved it. We filmed a review, but we loved it, but we just couldn't think of a whole lot of talking points, or we thought, maybe saying things. I mean, everything's been said about it at this point, and
there was like 45 minutes of this is a really good movie.
Pretty much. There was
this is Scorsese at his best.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of things to really pick apart, and we just didn't have a lot of really interesting talking points. We didn't think so. We didn't post it. But we'll share our thoughts about it in the comments if somebody wants to hear that. But yeah, we think it's great.
Yeah, it was a great movie. It's the first time I'd seen it, and again, it'd been out for a few years, just kept slipping under the radar for me. I'm personally not a huge DiCaprio fan. I think he is a great actor now. I think he's very much matured in his acting over the years.
Oh yeah, his best work has been in the past few years.
I'm just still not a huge fan of him, so that one kind of stayed under the radar for me for a long time. And finally watched it, and again, enjoyed it. A great movie. Definitely one I will go back to time and time again now. So moving on from an actual Scorsese film to a definite wannabe Scorsese film, the first movie we actually reviewed this year, Joker.
Yeah, that one was talked up for us pretty big. He and I, neither one of us had seen it until we watched it right before we reviewed it. And of course, you can go back to hear our thoughts and watch the old videos on any of these. But you know, it was kind of a fun way to start our series out. I thought.
Yeah.
You know.
It was an interesting first watch. It kind of took a little dip in our normal rating system in being our first movie
Yeah.
we watched. We really didn't know how we were rating these films. But, wasn't the best movie I've ever seen. I can go back and watch Taxi Driver and, watch a
Yeah.
better movie, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hate Joker. I
No.
just didn't love it at all.
Yeah.
I liked some of the stuff that they went for, but it was overhyped for me for sure. And the one thing I'd always heard, it was like it's kind of like Taxi Driver. Watch it with that in mind. It's kind of like it's in that vein, but it's there's parts where I'm like, this is Taxi Driver.
Yeah, I am watching a remake of Taxi Driver
Yeah.
set in the DC universe.
Yeah, and instead of Travis, forgetting the character's last
Sprinkle.
name, we just have Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah. Not in any of his Shyamalan roles, so
Oh man, can you imagine if Shyamalan had made Joker?
I wonder what the twist would have. Well, it had a twist ending.
Yeah, but
So-
oh god, yeah, but Shyamalan, it would have been like crazier than
Yeah.
that. It would have turned out like Joker was an alien or something. I mean, you know.
But the very same night, we watched one of the best movies I think we did watch this year, The Lighthouse.
Yeah, The Lighthouse, and I will say, so I'd said it at the time that I wanted to revisit The Lighthouse, and I haven't done it yet, but I still plan to. And you've heard us say this a few times for a couple of our reviews. We've reviewed a few movies that are sort of that art house style, like the house that Jack built, and I would throw Hereditary in there maybe. So we are people that like those kinds of movies. We get why people might not enjoy them. Casual moviegoers, we particularly like them. Those, I think, were probably our highest rated stuff, maybe, for the most part. Well, I don't know about Hereditary.
Yeah. I mean, if we take Robert Eggers' first film, The Witch.
Yeah, which is a big favorite of both of
Yes,
both
I
lovers.
mean, definitely in possibly my top 10 horrors of all time.
Yeah, I don't know if I would say of all time, but I remember seeing it and thinking, man, we actually got a real, honest to God, good original horror movie.
Yeah.
Like in this day and age, and it was very, very refreshing to see that. And I think it's the best original horror film in my opinion, especially something that hit mainstream theaters.
Oh yeah.
And
That's
this
very hard
decade
to
easily.
do. That's very hard to do now.
Yeah.
To have a real horror movie actually make it to theaters and.
Mhm.
Now, did The Lighthouse make it to theaters though?
It did, but it was like kind of a limited release.
Okay.
I think it didn't make it to all theaters. It played at the theater in Christiansburg, but it was only there for, I think it was only there for like maybe a week or something, and they took it down.
See, because I did not even hear the movie until months after it came out.
Yeah,
So-
I remember when it was hitting theaters. I really wanted to make plans to go see it, but then the one theater that near us that was playing it got rid of it, and it hit Blu-ray shelves like pretty soon. It was because I think if I remember correctly, it was a theatrical release. It hit theaters in like October of 2019, somewhere
I
in
believe
there.
somewhere, yeah.
And then by the end of the year, the Blu-ray was out. I'm pretty sure, so
Yeah.
we didn't have to wait long to end up seeing it.
And yeah, it's just one of those very interpretive films, and I mean, just a very chilling story too. And you do have to kind of have a background in.
Yeah, it's a movie that, like we said in the review, in a couple of these movies that we reviewed, some of the, these art house style sort of horror movies where you it expects you to have like a knowledge of certain things that it's going to be referencing, to get a full understanding or a better interpretation of what they're doing. Like in the case of The Lighthouse, I feel like if you know a little bit about Greek mythology, you'll get it a little more.
And of course, keep going back to The Witch, but if you know some witch folklore from New England, that
Mhm.
makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
These Robert Eggers movies, they're just, he is very true to the period.
Yes.
And that's what I respect so much about these films, Lighthouse, the dialogue and
Mhm.
the region they're in.
Yeah.
He keeps, and now these are movies you want to have subtitles.
I was going to say, they're so authentic, you really need the subtitles.
Yeah. And, I mean, the acting in The Lighthouse was phenomenal.
Yeah, and that is actually the first film that I had ever seen with Robert. Is it Patterson or Pattinson? Not sure how you say it.
Pattinson.
Robert Pattinson, I think, maybe. That's the first movie I'd ever seen him in. I only knew him as the Twilight guy. Yeah. I hate to admit it, but I did watch the first Twilight movie. I was
forced to.
I was suckered into it. Obviously didn't care for it, but then I found out, the Twilight guy is doing a Robert Eggers movie, and I was interested, and he was great. I mean, him and Willem Dafoe, and Willem Dafoe I think is one of the best actors ever. So
absolutely.
And the way they played off of each other was just so well done, so well directed, cinematography so good, acting is on point. One of the top picks of the entire year for sure.
And then again, moving on from The Lighthouse, we then watched Hereditary, an Ari Aster film.
Yep. And Ari Aster and Robert Eggers are, I think they're pals. They have a similar filmmaking style.
Now, that's the reason we wanted to watch this, and to this day I've still yet to see Midsummer, the other Ari Aster film. But I had been told that, Hereditary is so strong in the vein of The Witch and The Lighthouse. You should watch this movie.
In the sense that it's slow and plotting and, just...
the same style of filmmaking. I mean, is it going to be in a whatever ratio, something different?
Yeah.
Something kind of weird?
Yeah, like it's that, again, I don't know how else to refer to it other than that art house style.
But I was pretty let down with Hereditary.
I was a little bit. I mean, I think the stuff that was supposed to be scary was pretty scary.
Oh, yeah.
It was unnerving. It worked. But for me, I remember the movie kind of feeling like it was dragging at points, not really seeming to go anywhere for a while. And then it gets to the end, and the end is cool, but there's something like in the chaos that I get lost in there at the end of it. I felt like
it took like 2.5 hours to tell a 20-minute story.
Yeah, it was a bit too slow in plotting.
Yeah.
For me, and like I said, some of the stuff in it really, really worked. I overall liked the movie. It got a positive rating from us. But again, maybe something a little bit too overhyped.
Yeah.
We thought.
And that's one we said we'd go back and watch, but it's honestly one I have not went back and watched.
Yeah, I do want to go back and rewatch it, but it's probably going to be a little while. It's going to take some time for me to forget enough of it that I'm going to be like, well, I'm going to give that another shot. I would definitely rewatch The Lighthouse way sooner than rewatching Hereditary. And
then I showed Raven one of my all-time favorite films,
Falling Down.
Yes.
I really enjoyed that movie. Funny enough, I hadn't seen a lot of stuff with Michael Douglas in it.
Really?
Yeah, I'd seen Fatal Attraction, and like one or two other things. I know Michael Douglas has done a ton of stuff, but for whatever reason, he's one of those guys I hadn't caught a lot of the stuff he's been in. But
Michael Douglas, Robert Duvall, in Joel Schumacher's direction.
And Joel. Yeah, I forgot Joel Schumacher directed that.
There's not really anywhere you could have went wrong with this, unless you gave him bat nipples. But
well, he's apologized for that.
Yeah, he's made up for it.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Again, you can go back to that review. I believe that was the first one actually on the YouTube channel. Some of these that we've talked about were not uploaded to YouTube. They were strictly on the band Facebook page, in case you're fairly new to the channel.
Go check out the band's Facebook page. Like we're musicians too. You like some other stuff you find on there.
Yeah. But that was, you can go back and watch that review over for more in depth, just like any of these. But that's just a film that I was shown in college by a friend of mine, and it stuck with me ever since. Just the fact that it goes there, like it makes the film has the nerve to make you side with the villain.
Yeah, it gets dark and it kind of keeps you asking questions on like who's really the crazy one here. And,
by the way, spoilers on all of this if you haven't.
So Yeah, so if you don't want anything else ruined, just
Don't watch this video.
don't watch this video. Watch everything else we talked about, even though you may not know or remember what it was because we haven't talked about it yet.
Yeah.
But, you know, sorry about everything from before.
Yeah. Sorry.
Some of these movies are old enough, you've probably seen them.
Yeah. And if you haven't, then it's your own fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, again, one of my favorite films of all time. It is one I can go back to time and time again, as with a few of these others that we will mention here coming up. But from Falling Down, we went on to a much more obscure film.
Yeah.
The House That Jack Built.
And I'm forgetting the director's name. No, I got it. Lars von Trier. That's him. I had heard about this movie. Again, I follow a few, fellow film fanatics, film reviewers on YouTube, and I'd heard the name of this movie pop up. I'd heard that it was very controversial upon its release. The director kind of caused a little bit of controversy for it. I'd heard stories of people puking in the theater, getting up and walking out.
And now,
things
granted,
like that.
we watched the rated R version, I believe.
I believe we did, yeah. I think there is an unrated version. I'm pretty sure we watched the R-rated version. But yeah, very obscure movie, but I'd heard enough about it. I mentioned it to him. We decided to watch it, and we liked it.
Yeah, we gave it a higher rating than Hereditary.
Yeah, again, it's a lot, sort of one of those, use the word again, I guess, art house style films. I mean, you got to.
And this one gets way out there.
Oh yeah, it gets very disturbingly dark. I mean, I will say, I don't think the movie's like too offensive. It's not too over the top.
At least not the version we watched.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that other people are talking about the version we watched, it wasn't like too crazy. But there are probably certain things if you're easily offended by, like violence towards children, violence towards women, things like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like a lot of these movies. I mean, you have to really know what you're getting into first, and as long as you're essentially desensitized, as we are at this point.
Oh yeah, you've seen a Serbian film.
Yeah, so. Yeah. I, for whatever reason, something in me made me watch that movie.
It's okay. I would have done it too. I just haven't yet.
Yeah, it's not. We're not going to talk about Serbian film on this, but that would definitely get us demonetized, or that would get this video probably shut down pretty quick.
Yeah, well, I guess depending on who hears it and if they know what a Serbian film is.
Yeah, that is one movie I don't think I really ever want to go back and watch again. It's just I'm glad I watched it, glad I saw it
for the experience.
Yeah, so I can say, hey, I watched it, I done it. But it's not one I'm going to. Yeah, let's put that on tonight.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not sit around on the couch with popcorn.
Yeah.
With your chick.
Yeah.
Your lady.
That's not
kind of movie.
Not that one.
Yeah.
But I did not think The House that Jack Built was anywhere near as rough as that. Not even close.
Yeah.
But it was. I know it turned a lot of people off. A lot of people had some bad things to say about it, but I really didn't have that much bad to say. It was a little lengthy. I mean, it did drag in a few parts, but I loved the dialogue of this film.
And it got me into Lars von Trier. It got me interested into Lars von Trier. I want to, as far as I know, that is the first film of his I had watched. So it made me, I want to watch some of his other stuff now. I mean, because everything I hear is that he's a very controversial figure. Actually, I take that back. I have seen Antichrist. With Willem Dafoe, I believe, right around the time it came out, which has been several years ago. I want to say I caught that on Netflix or something. I think I actually turned it off because it was kind of like, not in the mood for this kind of movie right now. But I want to go back and rewatch it now after seeing House That Jack Built and kind of seeing, new talented director who's clearly like an artist or whatever, So. Interested enough to get back and watch other stuff he's done.
And then we went on to the Michael Keaton film Birdman,
which we were let down by.
Yeah, and this it was a very interesting film.
It's not a bad movie.
No,
technically, from a technical standpoint, very well done.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Just, I was taken out of it. The fact that it's supposed to be all one continuous shot, and certain movies can pull that off. This one got very confusing very fast.
Yeah,
And
it puts some logic holes in there.
Yeah.
By doing it that way, I thought, and it gets a little bit hard to follow.
They rush it at points way too fast.
There's characters walking around all over the place, saying and doing things, and I got like halfway through the movie and would see a scene that I could tell was, some sort of a pivotal moment, and I couldn't even remember who the character was because it's just like.
Or there was I remember, this movie's kind of fled me for the most part. I remember there was one character in there that we both didn't realize was the same person from earlier in the movie in a different spot because it flies by everybody so fast.
It feels really unfocused.
Yeah. I understand it's a movie you should probably watch over again. It's another interpretive movie, as many of these are, the ending especially. But all in all, I just think it was a great idea, but a very bad execution for it. It could have been a lot better. It was not bad. It was an enjoyable movie, but it's not necessarily one that I have a desire to sit back down and watch.
Yeah, I don't think I do either. It really didn't do a lot for me. And we love Michael Keaton. I've never seen a bad Michael Keaton movie, really.
I have. Well, he wasn't necessarily the star, but I have seen.
Okay, I think he's pretty much been the star. I've seen obviously Beetlejuice, Batman stuff, Multiplicity. I've seen a handful of the more well-known ones. Anyway, yeah, big Michael Keaton fan. I'm actually a fan of a lot of people that were involved in Birdman. I'm a big Edward Norton fan. So yeah, the really good talent involved here from both production standpoint, actors. Just the story just wasn't there for me, and I think the way that it was filmed did that. The way that the approach of the movie and what it was trying to do just kind of took me out of being able to follow. It made it feel very unfocused for me.
And then we went into some very abstract territory with the new Bill and Ted.
Yes, that was again know what you're getting into. Very methodical, very intelligent film. No, I'm trying to make a bad joke. Go watch it. If you're a fan of Bill and Ted, it's not as good as the first two.
No.
It didn't need to be. It was great for what it was. I thought there were some downer moments for me. I wasn't feeling Keanu Reeves this time around.
Yeah, and it's not his fault. I don't think. I just feel like
he's just his career has gone to so many different places now that it's kind of hard to buy him. And I think even he thought that it was maybe a little too hard to.
I think what it really is that he just can't quite channel that anymore.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to say too.
Yeah, right. He's just been doing his Matrix, his John Wick, all this. For so many years now.
Yeah, to go back to that dumb teenager mentality just kind of feels so out of left field for him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think about. Now, Alex Winters, I think nailed it.
He jumped right back into those boots as if he never left them. Yeah.
I wasn't so big on the ending. I wanted it to be, Bill and Ted all the way.
Yeah, and you got
spoilers again if you haven't seen this.
Yeah, you get the the passing the torch sort of moment to the daughters,
which I understand, but
it was kind of a nice thing. But as a Bill and Ted fan, you want it to be Bill and Ted, that saved the day.
We've seen them go through so much at this point. Let them have their comeuppance.
Yeah, let them finally save the world.
Yeah,
just let them do it. They've been trying so hard.
Yeah, I mean they've had to go back in time.
Yeah.
They almost failed exam. They almost failed a report. They died.
Yeah, they went to hell. They had to play the Grim Reaper in 18 out of whatever number of games to get out.
Yeah, I mean, come on, let it be them this time.
Yeah, Bill and Ted's. I'm forgetting the full title of the movie now.
Face the Music.
Face the Music. Yeah, it's great. If you're a Bill and Ted fan, for sure, go out of your way for it.
It's not something anyone asked for, but it's the movie we needed this year.
Yeah, I think yeah.
Yeah.
And you know what? I bet when they were making that, obviously there's no way they could have predicted what the world was going to be like by the time this thing came out. But it was kind of nice to have that.
Yeah,
it was some nice escapism from what.
Yeah, I remember you were having
a
a really crappy day.
I was having a bad day that day, and by the end of watching Bill and Ted, I was like, yeah, got my boys again.
Yeah,
yeah. It's a good movie. It really is, and it's a fun, lighthearted thing. Everything that you expect out of a Bill and Ted movie, you pretty much got. The humor was pretty much the same. The jokes, for the most part, I thought landed. It was obviously it's modern, so you get that modern sense, but it's still they still did the right things that made the first two movies work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we had a couple videos where we touched on some classics, like we went through some '80s horror comedies. We of course touched on all the Universal monster movies, and there's not really much more to say about those now because we touched on them even though it was very briefly. We touched on all of them.
Yeah, and we mentioned quite a few films, and each of those reviews. We're not necessarily going to go back and specifically talk about any of those now
because all these movies we had seen before.
Yeah, and a lot of you probably have. A lot of these are older movies, and we didn't do a full review of any of them, but we did touch on them.
And then the last actual in-depth review we did was once again one of my all-time favorite movies, probably my top 5 favorite movies of all time, Deliverance.
Yeah, I'll say Deliverance was my favorite review that we have done so far on the
channel.
channel.
I believe so too. That and Falling Down was a close second, but yeah, Deliverance I think was my favorite.
I really liked the way we approached it because it's a very strong movie. It's got a lot of very strong elements to it, and there's a lot you can really pick apart. And I made notes during that one while we were watching it, and I think that was probably our most in-depth review that we've done, where we really kind of hit quite a few talking points there and really broke down into some theories that we had and things like that. So if you're a fan of Deliverance and you want to know what we think about it, definitely go back and watch that review. That's something I think we're the most proud of. And if you haven't seen Deliverance, go watch the review anyway. You'll know why you need to watch it.
Yeah, I'd say watch Deliverance first.
For sure, watch it first.
Then
watch our review.
Yeah, then come talk with us on the review. Because that was, it's a movie I love showing people who've never seen it. Yeah, it's just I love to see their reactions. I mean, there's some dark points in that movie, some very dark elements.
You've probably heard of that by now.
Yeah, but then just to go on to the rest when the movie actually starts to happen, I say, I love to hear like people's reaction to it. What they would do in these situations, how they feel about these certain characters, and it's just a great, amazing story, and it's all
it's a timeless story.
Yeah, and it's a take on.
That's what I like about it. I mean, the film came out in the '70s, and I think there's aspects to what the story's getting across that can apply in today's world, and I think always will. It really is a timeless story. I think that'll never really get old.
Because you have your elements of your man versus man, your man versus nature, man versus society, societies versus society.
Yeah.
It's just a beautiful film. Always have loved it. I've been watching this for so many years, and I continuously go back to it. Never gets old for me at all.
Yeah, me either. I haven't seen it as much time. I haven't seen it as many times as he has. I think when we watched it for the review, that may have been like the 3rd time I'd ever seen it or something like that.
I can't even count.
I've only watched it a handful of times, but yeah, I love it. I mean, it's something I'm never going to be opposed to watching.
And then, of course, just a couple of weeks ago, we watched some Christmas horror movies. We touched mostly on Black Christmas and Krampus.
Yeah, we actually, for the most part, did kind of a full review of Krampus. We actually watched that right before the review. It was fresh in our minds, so we talked about it.
And it was, it was an enjoyable movie.
Fine for what it was.
Yeah.
That's about the best I can say about it. Fine for what it was.
It's not one I'm going to go back to year after year, but it's a seasonal movie, just like so many of these are, with especially getting into the Universals. Most of them are to me are seasonal movies. The Universal monsters.
Yeah.
I typically watch them around Halloween. Of course, Christmas
course.
movies I'm only watching at Christmas time.
Of course.
But the majority of these other movies are enjoyable any time of year.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about them and can keep going back to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, of all the films we watched this year, watched and or reviewed, whatever, what would you say is the worst one to you?
It's between Birdman and Krampus for me. On one hand, I want to say Krampus because I feel like Birdman was a little bit of a better movie. But I kind of enjoyed Krampus more.
Well, so if we take out the Christmas elements, because
And that's kind of why I
Yeah.
think I enjoyed it, was because it was a very Christmassy sort of movie, and there was
and
an
that
aesthetic
gives,
that it had.
and that's a reason we watch these movies at Christmas time.
Yeah.
because they fill that
Yeah.
mood.
And
So if we take away the holiday movies,
Okay.
so what would you think?
So if Krampus isn't a choice, I'm gonna say, Birdman. Birdman was probably my least favorite of all of them.
I'm kind of torn on a few because Joker was not one that I loved by any means,
Yeah.
but
me
it
neither.
was still it had its moments. It was a movie I could see myself going back and watching. Maybe not a lot,
Yeah.
but I could see myself watching it again a couple years down the road, see how it holds up.
I could see myself rewatching Birdman only for the sake of okay, in case I miss something, unless there's some sort of genius going on in this movie that I'm missing, I'll rewatch it for that. But in terms of rewatching for sheer enjoyment, I could rewatch Joker again for that reason. I could rewatch Hereditary again.
And Hereditary is one I'm kind of also torn on for that fact because I want to go back and watch it, but never since we have I been in a mood to want to watch it again.
Right, yeah, and same goes for me. But I could see myself rewatching Joker or Hereditary again before Birdman.
Yeah, I think I could too.
Yeah.
I'll probably put Birdman at my lowest, unfortunately, because
Yeah.
again, I love so many of the actors in this movie, and which Hereditary did have Sixth Sense mom.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I could never think of her name. We couldn't think of her name
She's
from last week.
She's a mom and everything.
Yeah, but other than that, I wasn't too impressed with the acting in that movie.
Yeah.
It was, I don't know. I feel like Birdman had it for acting, and even had it more so for a story that kept me interested. It just the execution was so flawed.
Yeah, I think I was more interested in the Hereditary story. I think maybe it's just because I'm a horror guy. That's my genre, and so that kind of kept me on board. Where something like Birdman, even though I love plenty of movies that are not horror, that's not gonna. It just didn't keep me hooked. At least where something like Hereditary, where it's kind of dark enough and.
I felt for Michael Keaton's character more so in Birdman, but I hated every other character in the movie.
Yeah,
Like-
that was really close. I think I'm going to stick with Birdman as
Yeah.
the answer, but that's a little close.
Yeah, I think I'll hang on to Birdman as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember which one I gave a lower rating. I would have to go back and watch.
I don't quite.
I'm too lazy to
remember.
do that. I don't
Yeah,
have
I
that
don't quite
time.
remember either. I want to say I rated Hereditary a little higher, but I can't
I
really
think
remember.
so. Okay, top 3 of all we've watched.
Ooh, yeah, that's a little easier. For me, that's going to be The Lighthouse. That's going to be Deliverance. And that's going to be... I really want to say Bill and Ted, I think. I think that
Interesting.
might be my 3. Couple runners up there. I mean, I really enjoyed The House That Jack Built. I really enjoyed Falling Down. But I think The Lighthouse... Yeah, for sure. I'm going to say Lighthouse, Deliverance easily, and probably Bill and Ted.
Well, naturally, I would have to throw Falling Down and Deliverance in there, and Deliverance is going to be my number one. Uh,
Deliverance will be my number one too.
yeah, and of course, again, Falling Down is one of my favorite movies too. That has to stay up there. But my number 3 spot for a movie I have not seen, I'm going to give it a good tie, very hard tie, between The Lighthouse and Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Okay, yeah. You know what? I changed my answer. I'm putting the Ballad of Buster Scruggs in and taking Bill and Ted out.
Okay.
So yeah, that's going to be for me. Deliverance number 1. Ballad of Buster Scruggs 2, I think, and Lighthouse 3.
If we could take out, there was only like one. There's one story in Buster Scruggs that I didn't really draw me in that much. That was the final one, and then the Liam Neeson one, I feel kind of drug on. I mean, it was intended to.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be very redundant, very repetitive, but it kind of took me out of that one. If those two were not there, I would possibly put that. I'd probably chuck out Falling Down at that point. But I'll still, I'll keep that in there. The Lighthouse is one of those. It's not one I'm going to go back and watch as many times as I would Buster Scruggs.
Me too. I think that's why I put Buster Scruggs above.
Now, and to compare again to the other Robert Eggers film, The Witch. The Witch is a film I watch pretty much every year around Halloween. It's perfect for that mood. Whereas The Lighthouse doesn't really have that horror feel to it. It's not
as strongly. For sure.
It's more
towards the end. It kind of does.
It's more of just a weird movie.
Yeah. But there's something about the weirdness of it that really draws me in, and that just the aesthetic of it is just super, just well done to me. It's something about the movie that really draws me in. I like the acting, the story. It's a genius movie for me in a lot of ways. Like, I really got to put it up there in the top 3.
So yeah, that pretty much wraps up this year in movies for us. Hopefully we'll get to see some more new movies this coming year.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how we did end last year with, we ended last year watching the last Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And then just a few weeks later, we were back in theaters watching Invisible Man. And then nothing. Forever.
Yeah.
It's like and many theaters around us have shut down for good.
For good.
Yes.
Yeah, we had one just recently open back up, and I went to the website to see the titles, and I wasn't familiar with a single movie playing. Yeah. I mean, I'm not really following a lot of stuff that's coming out right now, to be honest.
And I know some people like the formula of just being able to stream it at home, which is what we did to Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I miss that feeling. I want to go to the theater. I want to buy me a popcorn, a drink. I want to sit there, and it's the experience. Now, there's not a whole lot of movies I do that for anyways.
Me, I really have to... I mean, if I'm going to go to the movies, there's only 2 reasons I'm going to do it. I'm either going to do it because I genuinely really want to see this movie, so I'm going to go out of my way to make sure I see it in a theater. I want to say I was there in the theater. Another reason is, like, if I just happen to be with some friends, hey, let's get into something, let's go to the movies, I'll just kind of watch whatever. Yeah. But, I mean, other than that, like, I either watch stuff at home or, if I'm going to the theater, if I'm going to see something I really want to see in theaters, I'm going to go alone. Usually. Now, not every time, but, sometimes. Most of the time, I'll try to go alone to see something I really want to see. Now, I did see all the Star Wars stuff with friends. I've seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with friends.
See, now that was the first movie I ever saw alone in theaters. And
it's a great feeling, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I loved it.
I think the first movie I ever seen alone in theaters was The Dark Knight.
Really?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just... of course, I want to go... I'd rather see a movie with somebody, but...
I'm the opposite. I'd rather see it alone.
Really? Yeah. See, I would rather be someone there. That way I can talk to them about it afterwards.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I actually loved it, because I'm just sitting there like, I can really get into this, and
Mm-hmm.
I could study it more. I had no distraction around me,
Yeah.
and because
That's my thing about seeing it alone is because if I'm really hyped to go see something in theaters, I want to digest that movie as best I can.
yeah.
I want no possibility of distraction if I can help it.
And unfortunately, when we do go with friends, there are one or two who they'll be on their phones sometimes.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's distracting if they're like right next to you,
yeah.
especially.
Or making comments through the movie. Now, we've watched some movies that we're not that deep into, and we'll make some comments during it. No
Yeah.
big deal, but if it's one I really, really want to see,
I mean, if it's in the theater, I really don't want to do. I mean, it's one thing to kind of like sit around the living
Yeah.
room and watch a movie and kind of talk over it or whatever. But when I'm in the theater, I want
I'm
me in the movie. If you're sitting next to me, fine, but I want me in the movie.
I'm paying to see this movie.
Yeah.
I want to get my money's worth.
Yeah.
And I really want that back. Like, I just want to be here in the next few weeks. I want to go to the theater and see something. I don't know what is even coming out,
I don't either.
but I really want to go see something.
I mean, I've heard of some titles that are out there, but I don't know anything about them.
So that's what we're going to shoot for in 2021. We're going to try to see some more new movies in theaters and review them to you all. We're definitely going to revisit some classics, some favorites of ours.
Oh yeah.
Of course, we're going to show each other movies that the other has not seen.
Yeah, actually, Falling Down was his pick for something I had not seen, and then Wolf of Wall Street was my pick for something he hadn't seen, but we didn't upload that. So, and I do have a second movie in mind for that.
And I've got a few more to show him. And then we also want to do a few videos on like a series of films, kind of how we did the 80s horror comedies and the Universal monsters. We want to do some
like
videos.
some sets of movies
like
together where we can kind of talk about like a whole entire,
for example, like the Vincent Price collection, like the Roger Corman
things
Vincent
like
Price,
that,
stuff like that.
yeah.
That's something you can have a set of movies here, watch, go through each one. Some very interesting things.
Talk
to
about
say on
something.
those.
Talk about something sort of bigger than the movie.
Exactly.
Like highlight specific periods of film, specific directors and some of their work, actors and some of their work, things like that, and do videos.
Yeah,
that
definitely
are just,
actors. See how an actor has progressed through the years.
Yeah.
Like this, just for example, not saying we will or wouldn't do this actor, but to take a very polarizing one, Jim Carrey. You could take his absolute, what I consider the trash Jim Carrey roles, to his very serious stuff.
For some reason, as soon as you said trash Jim Carrey roles, The Mask instantly.
Yeah,
right up in my head.
that's close up there.
For some reason, I just saw that green face right when you said
It was
that.
more so Ace Ventura coming into my mind.
I liked the first Ace Ventura, and I thought the second one had like one really funny scene, but
yeah, I was kind of on both of them. But he's just for example, not saying we will or wouldn't do him, but really want to explore some more in-depth ways to review these movies. Now we are doing this with some new equipment here. We have a new microphone. We'll see how good a quality this turns out to be.
hopefully our voices are nice and crispy.
Yeah, and maybe this other background noise won't be quite as rough this time. It's all going to be trial and error. We hope you all will join us for all of that as well, and thank you for joining us this year. It's been a crazy year. Like
It's been a doozy, and something else too. I'll throw in there, like going forward, we've done a few little skits, if you want to call them, to sort of introduce these videos. That's something I like to make them more of a regular thing.
Yeah.
And also, at some point, we want to evolve into having maybe a little bit of a set. Like something a little less boring to look at when you're hearing us talk.
Rather than some dirty Venetian blinds and.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get more creative as this goes on. This was just our first year.
Definitely some other guest stars on the show as well.
We're gonna bring more people on. We're gonna try to make this as fun and as much of a more of a viewing experience really as we can as things go on. So this was like our first year.
Kind of getting our feet wet.
Getting our feet wet, just seeing how this thing is kind of going to go, and how many people are tuning in and stuff like that. But it's been fun for us. I've liked watching these movies. I've liked talking about them. So as we continue to go forward into 2021, we're going to try to continue to evolve as as a show, as a channel.
Yeah, and now this will be the last video of 2020. Granted, hopefully it will be uploaded by the end of 2020. It might be on New Year's Day of next year, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Hopefully this will be out before the end of the year, and it will probably looking at March before we're back with this. I'm going to try to take a couple months off. Really try to work on everything, get it to get every show to where I want it to be. Filming some new stuff for all that. Kind of rebranding a few of the shows, not necessarily rebranding, but amping them up.
Yeah, he's got a loaded plate, guys. I'm a guest on Midnite Movie Reviews, but I mean, with the smoking hour and on the road with Vincent and stuff, he's a busy guy. So
yeah, and all this should be returning right around March. Just stay tuned, and there should be some other videos coming in the next couple months to tide you over until the main series start back. I'm going to try to put some more band footage up. Just something, something to hold your interest for the next little bit. Kind of see what else goes on outside of the three main series.
yeah.
But other than that, is there anything you would like to say to the people to close out 2020?
No.
There's not much to say. Not about this year.
Get your lives together, 2021.
Yeah, 2021, you get your life together.
Yeah.
We don't want another repeat of this crap.
Oh yeah, I know. It's just been chaos this year. Hopefully, the world comes back to normal a little bit. We need our live shows back. We need movies back in theaters. We need some stuff happening. So I guess let's just hope for the best, and just here's to a new year. Hopefully, a better year than what we've had.
Thank you all for joining us again on the Vincent Raines official YouTube channel. I am Vincent Raines.
Raven Shadow.
You've been watching Midnite Movie Reviews, and of course thank you for joining us on all the other series as well, as Raven said, On the Road with Vincent and The Smoking Hour, and we hope to see you all on all of those shows in the new year as well.